Hey everyone, what a great time to start doing televised picks on the internet at week 10 when half the season is already over. Um, a lot of the teams that have gone, went ahead and were planning to go to the playoffs I picked to go are probably not going to go. And I do still have my Super Bowl pick in play, though. I picked the Colts and 49ers to start everything off, and that's still in the running. So, good for there. But there's a couple of things I'm going to be doing here. I'm going to go ahead and just make my picks for week 10 and I'm going to yell at Shane McCarthy because he kind of deserves it. So we're going to be going straight down the line from my Yahoo Sports app. I'll give you the game, who's at home, the line, a little bit of storyline if I could think of one, and then what my pick's going to be. All right, so we'll go right on ahead and start with game one, going out to London. We have the 6-3 Dallas Cowboys taking on the 1-8 Jacksonville Jaguars. The line is the Dallas Cowboys are 7.5-point favorites. Now, don't consider myself a Cowboys fan, to be honest, but I do kind of get defensive of them. And one thing that really upsets me is when Cowboys fans talk about how they want to get rid of Tony Romo. Well, you got a taste of what the post-Romo era is going to look like. And if Brandon Whedon's your backup, I don't know how good that's going to look. Now, it's not a big loss losing to Arizona last week. That's only going to kind of mess with kind of tiebreakers if you come down to that. Who gets that round one bye. But really, the Dallas Cowboys' number one priority is to win the NFC East. And they can do that with 10 wins, provided 2 of those wins, if they can go ahead and get the season series against the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of things are going to be working for them in this game against Jacksonville, starting with the fact that Romo will be healthy. I don't expect the Jacksonville Jaguars to really challenge the offensive line, where Romo's going to have to be rushing to make passes that he probably shouldn't. And because he's not going to be feeling like he needs to pass quickly or too much, you'll be able to open the run game with DeMarco Murray, be able to get Lance Dunbar worked in there with the passes here and there and keep a very balanced attack. Comes down to that. Oh, I have a tab open. Dallas Cowboys number one. And we'll close that and get back to that's embarrassing. So yeah. I don't expect the Jaguars to really challenge the Cowboys. You don't have to worry about the Dallas Cowboys' terrible defense because I don't expect the Jacksonville Jaguars to stay on the line, the offense very long. I think the Cowboys will do a good job of forcing Jacksonville to get 3 and out, or if there is a drive, they'll be able to kill it pretty quickly. The other storyline here is that we're doing another game in London because it seems like it's inevitable that we're going to have a team in England. If you put a team in London, eventually they're going to have to play a road game against the Seattle Seahawks, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's a 10-hour time difference. I may be wrong on that. Logistics of that, because there will eventually be a season where, because of how the schedule is going to break down, the London team will have to go out to Seattle, play a road game, and then fly all the way back and play a home game at London. The logistics of that is a nightmare. Look, the teams that are probably going to move were going to be the Minnesota Vikings, but they're already building a new stadium, so they're probably safe. The Jacksonville Jaguars, if they move, they're going to Los Angeles. The Oakland Raiders, if they move, they're going to go to San Antonio. I don't know who you put really in London. The Buffalo Bills, if they move, they're going to Toronto. I don't know who you put in London. I don't recommend you expand to 33 teams because that screws up the very nice set formula that the NFL's got right now. It's just too many issues there to go ahead and do much more than what they're doing right now is have one international game every year, or I think it's up to 3 international games they've got this year. They got 3 next year. They get to send the terrible teams out. I think the Jets are going, the Lions are going, and the Jaguars have another game out there. So if you want a team in London, hey, maybe we can bring the NFL Europe back. That was pretty cool. I loved the Frankfurt Galaxy. They had one of the best uniforms of all time. And they managed to have ads on their uniforms, and it didn't look terrible, something that the NBA is already looking into. That being said, I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys 38-10 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Going next on the list, going to my favorites, we have the 2-6 Atlanta Falcons taking on the 1-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're in Tampa Bay. The Falcons are 2.5-point favorites in this game. We all remember what happened in Week 3. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers got completely destroyed by the Atlanta Falcons. It was about the darkest moment I can remember being a Buccaneers fan, but I jumped on ship in 1997. It hasn't been that bad for me, at least that I can remember. However, that Atlanta Falcons team at that time was looking pretty solid. And the Buccaneers are still working in the Lovie Smith system. I don't expect the Buccaneers to get murdered quite like that. See, the two, other than the two games that the Buccaneers got blown out against, one against the Falcons, one against the Rams, they've played pretty competitively in every single game. The margin of defeat, I believe, in the other five games has been about 4 or 5 points. Both of those games that they lost, they weren't losing those about 17-3 in each quarter, 20-3 in each quarter, and just getting outclassed the entire way. They're losing that first quarter 28-0, and at that point, nobody is playing football like it's a real game anymore. It's just not happening at that point. So I do expect that the Buccaneers are going to be more competitive. They do show a little bit of improvement there, and they've got one thing going for them heading into this game. It would actually be a very bad thing for the Buccaneers to win. They need to go ahead and start losing and be able to get a good draft position so they can go ahead and get Jameis Winston or Mariota. I know I'm pronouncing his name wrong because they need a quarterback. Buccaneers fans, if you're calling for Lovie Smith's head, slow it down. Give him a little bit of time here. A lot of that team is still Schiano's, and maybe there's still some parts of Raheem Morrison there. Get yourself a good quarterback. Go ahead and build up that defensive line so you can get some pressure on the opposing quarterback. Look, when the Buccaneers are good, they're never a great offensive team. They're a good defensive team with a pretty mediocre offense. So once you get that okay offense going, at least an offense that won't lose games for you, and getting strong defense, you'll be fine. That said, I have no confidence in the Atlanta Falcons, and I completely believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to start winning games they have no business doing. So I'm taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 21, Atlanta Falcons 17. Moving down the list, 2-6 Tennessee Titans at the 5-4 Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are 10-point favorites. I don't really know how you could pick the Tennessee Titans in this game, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Ravens 35, Titans 16. Here's a good game that's got a lot of playoff implications here. The 5-3 Kansas City Chiefs are 1-point favorites on the road at Ralph Wilson Stadium, taking on the 5-3 Buffalo Bills. Chiefs, again, 1-point favorites. Both of the Bills are performing significantly better than I thought they would. I kind of had the Chiefs going as a 6th seed in the AFC playoffs when I picked everything out at the beginning of the season. Possibly not really challenging for the division title because you still have the Broncos. That said, I know Shane McCarthy's picking against the Buccaneers this week, so I'm going to pick against the Bills. Give me the Chiefs 24, Bills 19. The 5-3 Miami Dolphins are at Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions, 6-2. Detroit Lions are leading the NFC North right now. The Lions are 2.5-point favorites. I was really impressed with how the Lions went ahead and had composure, drove back down the field to win their last game. They were on a bye last week. They won 22-21 over the Atlanta Falcons. In a game that they probably shouldn't have won, they lucked out with that delay of game so they could go ahead and get the second kickoff to win that game in London. I'm still surprised that Mike Smith has a job after that implosion, but that is not nearly as impressive as what the Miami Dolphins did to the San Diego Chargers last week, 37-0. I picked the Dolphins to win that game, but I didn't think it was going to be that complete of an annihilation. The Miami Dolphins are real, and eventually the New England Patriots, eventually Tom Brady's going to get old. It's just science. I mean, they can go ahead and San Antonio Spurs it as long as they want and kind of defy Father Time, but eventually Brady's going to have to step down. There's going to be somebody looking to come up there. Could it be the Bills? Could it be the Dolphins? I don't know, but if you had to tell me, well, I can only take one of those teams to go in the wild card, give me Miami. That said, Dolphins 28, Lions 24. Moving right along, speaking of the AFC East, we have the New York Jets are at home this week. At MetLife Stadium, they're taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh is 6-3. The Jets are 1-8. The Steelers are 3.5-point favorites, and the Steelers dismantled Indianapolis. What, a week, 2 weeks ago? I don't really like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I will be the first to admit they're one of my least favorite teams. 3.5 points is kind of a snub. I don't see how they don't walk into MetLife and just annihilate the New York Jets. I know I said the word annihilate a lot, but I think this could be a pretty ugly game. I went ahead and took the Steelers 37, the Jets 6. That 31-point differential, though, is not going to be the blowout of the week because right next to that, we have the 6-2 Denver Broncos taking on the 0-8 Oakland Raiders. This is one of the things that me and McCarthy constantly have a fight on. McCarthy says the Buccaneers are the worst team in the league, But when you have a team that could very realistically go 0-16, I don't know how you rank them anything other than 32. If Oakland gets themselves a win, maybe there's a conversation there. But when you're still 0 and something, you're number 32, unless there's another team that's 0 and something. That said, did anybody expect the Broncos to get beat like they did against the Patriots last week? Now, I know Manning versus Brady always somehow, for 10 of those 16 times, it ends up being at Gillette Stadium. I don't know how that works out, but Brady gets to have the benefit of home field advantage. But still, that was nasty. The Broncos don't get beat like that often unless it's a Super Bowl. But I expect they're going to have a lot of pent-up rage to dole out this week. And, man, what better punching bag is there in the NFL right now than the Oakland Raiders? Broncos are 10.5-point favorites. I'm taking Denver 52, Oakland 17. And that's if Oakland can get some points in garbage time. The 3-5 St. Louis Rams are taking on the 7-1 Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are 6.5-point favorites. They're at Arizona this week. It's time to admit it. The Arizona Cardinals are a good team. I know it seems weird. We're in the NFL season where the Cardinals are the number one team in the NFC. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are contending for a playoff spot, and the Cleveland Browns at 6-3 are in first place in the AFC North. It's not a normal season, but we got to go ahead and face facts to facts. That said, I really like the St. Louis Rams beating the 49ers last week. And the Rams, as far as the 3-5s go, kind of taking a quick glance at who else is 3-5 in the league. And I guess Carolina being at 3-5-1, we'll talk about them later. They're not bad, but I don't know. If there's a game that the Arizona Cardinals are going to get snuck on, it'll probably be this one. I didn't take St. Louis last week against the 49ers, and I kind of second-guessed myself, and it bit me in the ass for it. And I'm going to do that again. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals 23, the St. Louis Rams 20. Do not be surprised if that one is wrong. The 3-5 New York Giants at the 5-3 Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are 8-point favorites. The Seahawks have kind of figured things out, and they're kind of hitting a stride towards the to make a push there towards the playoffs. Now, it's not too late for the NFC West, but they need to go ahead and pick up these wins so they can try and get a wild card spot. If they aren't able to go ahead and take the division from the Cardinals, you need to go ahead and start picking up steam. Try to get yourself to 10-6 to get a playoff spot. Now, 10-6 is dangerous for them because that's where I have the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys don't get the East at 10-6. The Cowboys have that crucial head-to-head tiebreaker over the Seattle Seahawks. That could be big. That said, the New York Giants don't really inspire confidence in me to go into Seattle and do what Dallas did. I've got the Seahawks there 27, the New York Giants 13. So a bad week for New York, except those both play in New Jersey. I guess I picked against the Bills too, so nothing for New York. Sorry. The 3-5 Chicago Bears at the 5-3 Green Bay Packers. Packers are 7-point favorites. The Chicago Bears on the onset of the season, I really thought were going to go ahead and challenge for the AFC North. I think originally I did go ahead and pick the Detroit Lions, who I still are going to go ahead and say are going to win the North. But Chicago was a realistic pick, I thought, to go ahead and get one of the wild card spots at the beginning of the season, and they've just kind of fallen off the map. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers are starting to hit a little bit of a stride there, and they're definitely a solid team. They don't really wow me, which I know someone will go ahead and turn around and show me some statistic and like, oh, Aaron Rodgers does this, Jordy Nelson does that, and, okay. When I think best team in the NFC, though, I don't think of the Green Bay Packers, but are they a team that would be surprised to go to the Super Bowl representing the NFC? Not at all. Green Bay Packers 27, Chicago Bears 7. And then the Monday night game, we have the 3-5-1 Carolina Panthers at the 6-2 Philadelphia Eagles. You know what? I missed a game, but we'll get to that in a second. So we have the Eagles at home. Eagles are 7-point favorites. Nick Foles got hurt last week, and if I'm not mistaken, the Philadelphia Eagles are now being quarterbacked by Mark Sanchez, who was good enough to go ahead and keep them in the victory against the Houston Texans, but let's be real here. I think Mark Sanchez is due to do a butt fumble or do some kind of crazy antic that reminds us that he is Mark Sanchez. Also, I don't really care for the Philadelphia Eagles. And as much as I don't like picking other NFC South teams that aren't the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Panthers are still my South pick. So I'm going to go with the Carolina Panthers 20, the Philadelphia Eagles 16. The game that I forgot, and I don't know how I glossed over it, probably because I hate the home team. The 4-4 San Francisco 49ers are going to the Superdome to take on the 4-4 New Orleans Saints. The Saints are 5.5-point favorites. McCarthy started to sip the Kool-Aid there. He thinks the Saints are going to go ahead and do some kind of run. Going to go ahead and do some kind of run here and take over the NFC South. With them only being a half a game ahead of the Carolina Panthers, I'm not sold that this is their division. I think the Panthers still have a good path to go ahead and take the division from the New Orleans Saints. The Saints aren't that great outside of the dome, and then even in the dome this year, they needed overtime to beat the Buccaneers. They needed overtime and a collapse to beat the Buccaneers in the dome. I love my Bucs, but come on now. That said, I think the 49ers are going to want to kind of make up for that loss they had against the St. Louis Rams so they can go ahead and get themselves back in the contention. This game is much more needed, more of a must-win for the San Francisco 49ers, who need every win that they can get to go ahead and try and compete for a wild card spot, versus the New Orleans Saints, who, hey, if they lose their next 8 games, depending on how the South goes, they could still probably win at 4-12. Who knows? I'm not going to be surprised if the South is the NFC West from a couple years ago where the Seahawks won at 7-9. Hey, wouldn't it be something if you have a round 1, your number 4 team is the 7-9 New Orleans Saints, and then the 10-6 Seattle Seahawks are the 5 seed, and it's like a reverse of that game. I still would like the Seahawks to win that game, though, because I hate the New Orleans Saints. That being said, I am going with the San Francisco 49ers. I forgot what to write that game down, so I don't remember what my score picked them for. Let's say San Francisco 28 and the New Orleans Saints 20. You know what? 28-0. Why don't the Saints just get shut out? Because wouldn't that be awesome? So again, we're going to go right back down. I got the Cowboys over the Jaguars, the Buccaneers over the Falcons. I got the Ravens over the Titans, the Chiefs over the Bills. Screw you, McCarthy. I got the Dolphins over the Lions, the Steelers over the Jets, the Denver Broncos killing the Oakland Raiders, Cardinals over the Rams, the Seahawks over the Giants, the Packers over the Bears, the Panthers over the Eagles, and then the 49ers to beat the Saints in the Superdome. And, I'm just going to go ahead. I've got a good feeling. I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns 24 and the Cincinnati Bengals 24-3. I feel like that's a good score. I think the Browns we're going to have a pretty good day. I feel that Andy Dalton's going to have something really terrible. I think in, 10 of 33, 10 of 31, somewhere along those lines. I think he might have an interception or 2. And I expect that the Cincinnati Bengals will have a running back to say that the Browns aren't as good as he thought they were. So anyway, that's my picks for Week 10. Comment if you agree. Comment if you disagree. If you don't want me doing this anymore, that's fine. I probably won't. And McCarthy, I want to hear what you've got. I'm signing out. Thank you and good night.